Hey, what's going on? Boylon here, and hope everyone is having an awesome day. Today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about Dark Dimension 3. Particularly, I want to go over some recommendations for team building if you're just getting started into DD3, or even if just started and need some tips as you go further along into it. I just recently reached City Node 2, and throughout my journey there's been quite a few things that I've learned personally that I want to share with all of you. Both in the characters that I've decided to bring in, and those who maybe I regret, on top of some particular annoying nodes for me that I want to warn people about. I also want to say that my advice isn't gospel, so feel free to disagree with me on it as well, and leave a comment down below if you want to express those. But without further ado, let's get into it. Right, so here we are starting with my overall roster page. I did want to show people the original 5 that I did start with Dark Dimension 3 back in the, I think maybe 3.5 months ago maybe now. So of the 5 that I did end up starting with, I believe definitely Phoenix. Everyone should have her at tier 14. She was my number 1, and then I believe I did Punisher. Now I'm going to talk about this later. I don't really recommend this, but he was skill, and there wasn't very good skill options at the time. This was pre-Black Order, so there wasn't really any of them available. So I did get Punisher just to get in the door. So to start Dark Dimension 3, you do need 5 tier 14 characters, but it doesn't really matter who they are. Whereas you don't actually need 5 characters going into the global nodes. So I had Phoenix, Punisher, and I believe it was Thanos. Now, the reason why I did Thanos, and I'll talk about this when we get to the cosmic side, is I have 7 red stars. So he was kind of that one of those things, you know, when people pull a 7 red star and you want to max them out. That was Thanos for me. So Thanos was my 3rd, and I think Invisible Woman was my 4th. I'll also talk about in the cosmic node, and if any of you guys have been following my Dark Dimension 3 runs, you'll know that Invisible Woman often runs counter to Ebony Maw because a lot of the kit is the same, minus the HP drain that Ebony Maw has. So if you are going, I wouldn't normally recommend Invisible Woman at this point. And then I believe my 5th was Scientist Supreme, I think as well. So, and she's okay, but the reason why I did these characters was because I basically took one character from each origin trait. So 1 tech, 1 bio, 1 mutant, 1 mystic, and what am I? I forget what I'm missing now. The Mystic, Biotech, Skill, and Mutant. So that's 5. So I wanted to work on 1 character of each origin trait as I was going along, and that's why I ended up with those. So let's sort by global, and then I'll show you what I have been working on for this. So global-wise, oh sorry, Ultron. Ultron was actually my first tech global, not Scientist Supreme. So, yeah, my character's at tier 14 right now for global: Ultron, Scientist Supreme, Mr. Sinister, and wherever my Phoenix. So Phoenix is definitely number 1. Start her first, get her early, and make sure she's tier 14, because she's gonna make Dark Dimension 3 significantly quicker. And actually, I think without her, I wouldn't say it's impossible, but I would. It's gonna add a lot of time onto your run, like significantly. So get her done to tier 14. You won't regret it, and she's good almost everywhere else in the game as well. Now, the things I do regret, I regret Ultron. Now, maybe I wouldn't be saying this if he had red stars, but he doesn't. So he is really squishy, I think, in Dark Dimension 3, and his speed isn't that great. So he is, like, actually, it's not terrible, but in terms of Dark Dimension 3, the enemies hit really hard, and the only saving grace that Ultron has is that he revives with full health when he has full health, which is every time that you start it up. So he kind of acts as a bit of a meatbag in a way, taking hits from other characters. But aside from that, there's a couple of instances where he did work really well, and I was able to get the Ultron bots rolling, and that wasn't a problem. But most AoEs, generally, because he doesn't have red stars to back up his bots, typically get cleared by any large amount of AoE, or even like 1 or 2 different AoE attacks will clear them all out. So he wasn't the best choice, not to mention he takes 5 sets of mini uniques for tech, and that's a lot. What I would recommend instead, even Scientist Supreme wasn't terrible, but not the best. The reason why I took up Scientist Supreme as well was because I was using her a lot in Ultima 7. I don't use her as much anymore, but she is still a solid character. Characters I would recommend is Shuri, who I have her sitting down at tier 12. I haven't upgraded her into the orange yet. I think I might take her up for my 2nd run, but it's kind of a bit too late right now since I'm already into the city. But definitely Shuri is another character that I recommend, and Colossus, which I don't have. So the Colossus is a really good tank for Phoenix. But typically for your first run, I think you'd be lucky to have 4 characters through the global run anyways. And so definitely my recommendations are Phoenix first, and then after Sinister is also a great healer for that, and you can get some really good clones sometimes depending on the node with him. So I know it's a lot of mutant gear, but if you can manage to get Phoenix, Sinister, and Colossus, you're doing pretty well. And then if you can add Shuri on top of that, that's 4. I think there's a bit of flexibility in what you want to use for your 5th for that. There's an option of Scientist Supreme could be an option as well. If you really want to, you could go for Ultron, but he's a lot of gear. And I don't know who else. Yo-Yo could be an option if you're leveling up Black Bolt, or if you have her quite high anyways, then you could consider taking her to 14. She is bio though. Other than that, there's not a lot of good choices. If you're really struggling, Nick Fury, you could do that, but I'm not sure how much benefit he's really going to add. I think that's about all for my suggestions for global. But after we go through my roster, we're going to head over onto MSF.gg, which they have a builder tool as well for Dark Dimension 3. So let's jump over to my Cosmic here. And where's my Cosmic? Oh, we have to go all Cosmic. So this one actually went a lot smoother, even though I didn't really have the optimal team. So almost everyone recommends Hela, and even though I didn't do Hela, I would still recommend her. The reason why I didn't do Hela was because I did Thanos. Now, again, I mentioned why I did Thanos. He's 7 red stars, and now the Black Order is a thing. You know, he's really carried his weight not only in Dark Dimension 3, but as Black Order in my arena. So I did take him up to become more arena viable as well, and I can maintain my position in arena. Black Bolt performed very well in my Cosmic lanes, if you saw any of my videos. Ebony Maw and Invisible Woman. Invisible Woman's kind of the weak link here, I think, and so these are the 4 that I defeated the Cosmic lane with. I would have rather replaced Invisible Woman with Hela, but it was a lot of Mystic gear because Ebony Maw's Mystic, Thanos is Mystic, and Hela would have been Mystic as well. Other options, Proxima Midnight actually isn't a really bad choice. She's really fast, and if you do happen to have Thanos, then it also runs quite well with her. Now, the reason why she's so good is because of her Star Throw level 7, and it gives 2 turns of offense down, and she's super quick, so she's probably going to go first, or really soon. The main thing with Dark Dimension 3 is you want kind of quicker characters, because they hit so hard, so that if you don't actually get any moves in, then, you know, you're not going to get very far. So Proxima Midnight is definitely a recommendation for me there. Some people have also done Loki as well. If you're doing Hela and Loki together, that could be an option. Other options obviously include Minerva, which I didn't do. I will probably get her up the second run as well if I use them. I haven't decided if I'm going full Black Order for my second run. If I don't do full Black Order, then I'll probably consider Minerva as well. And I'm not sure about Hela personally for my run, but I definitely recommend it for everyone else. So it really depends on what you're doing with your Black Order and how many Black Orders I'd recommend. Outside of that, Sif is also a very reasonable tank if you're running Hela or even Loki or the 3 of them together. She is skill, so she's a bit easier to get in terms of the mini uniques because there's not a lot of good skill options. Outside of those, some people have done Captain Marvel. If you have a really high red stars in Captain Marvel, I can see that being used. But beyond that, I think when we're getting down here to the rest of my roster that I haven't built, probably not. So my top picks, Hela, Black Bolt, Ebony Maw, Minerva, and then it can be a bit flexible from there. You know, you could do Thanos, you could do Proxima Midnight, Loki, Sif, maybe Captain Marvel as well. So there's actually quite a few choices for Cosmic, but definitely as a rule of thumb, Hela, Ebony Maw, or Minerva. If you don't have Ebony Maw, then definitely invest into Minerva because you want at least one of them. Having 2 of them would be great, but at least one of them would make it even quicker. And then over onto the city. City is really simple because there's really not many good choices. Now, I do have Punisher. Like I said, Punisher was one of my first tier 14 characters because I needed them to get into Dark Dimension 3. And honestly, I only have, I think, 1 video up of my city, maybe 1 or 2 videos up of my city runs, but it's not very good. So Punisher's been basically acting as a meat bag for Symbiote Spider-Man, who's been doing all the work. Carnage, definitely you need to have him as well. So Symbiote Spider-Man and Carnage are basically the dynamic duo here. If you can get the 2 of them, Carnage is really quick as well, and Symbiote Spider-Man has a pretty good speed. The 2 of them will probably carry you for the first run of Dark Dimension 3. Beyond that, Venom is a good choice as well, obviously because they share the symbiote tag, so the 3 of them would get you all the way through no problem. Ghost Rider, I think, is a decent choice as well because he puts a lot of debuffs down, bleeds and things like that, and his damage is actually pretty decent, and his hit points is also pretty decent as well. Not sure I'd really recommend anyone beyond those at this point. However, we are getting Squirrel Girl pretty soon, so Squirrel Girl should be out tomorrow, if not, or actually today, possibly as of the video, depending on when you're watching this. So this week is what I should say. And Squirrel Girl is a really interesting city support character and if you want to know more about Squirrel Girl, then I have some videos up on my channel about Squirrel Girl. And she's a very good support option. She clears debuffs as well, and she applies offense down on the enemies. So depending on what the superior uniques and the mini uniques look like for her, she would probably be a very good choice for this, either after Venom or after you get Carnage, because Symbiote Spider-Man and Carnage is definitely the go-to, and then after that, either Venom or Squirrel Girl could be an option for that too. Now, I just wanted to jump over to MSF PAL DD3 Team Builder, and I'll leave a link in the description below for this if you guys haven't seen this before. This is a really awesome tool that allows you to build all your teams for Global, Cosmic, and City. Even tells you what superior unique they use, and it tells you how many mini uniques they require. So, for example, if I used for Global here, what's the optimal team that I read? So Phoenix, Shuri, it's alphabetical order actually. Shuri, Colossus, possibly Mr. Sinister, and I don't know who we want to throw in here for the fifth. Nick Fury, let's say, if you decide to use Nick Fury. So that's 5 characters for Global there. So it does tell you a breakdown here of all the different materials that you need for the mini uniques anyways, and how many it's going to need from each category. And it also tells you, as a big list of all the mini uniques that are in the game right now, or sorry, superior uniques that are in the game right now, and how many of them you are going to need. So what I would recommend is not taking a character that doubles up on superior uniques. The only instance where you're not going to be able to avoid this is the City, because Carnage and the symbiotes, Symbiote Spider-Man and the other symbiotes, all use the same superior unique, so you're not going to be able to avoid that there. However, for Cosmic, for example, so let's take Ebony Maw and Hela and Minerva, where is she? Minerva and Sif, if you're using them, and Black Bolt. So then we add, so this adds up even more, and so far, you know, we don't have any overlap on the superior uniques, which is good, and that's normally what I'd recommend as well. Although it does look like, based on my, actually it looks pretty balanced actually so far, according to my recommendations. And City, Symbiote Spider-Man, Carnage, and I don't know, Venom, like I said. So that's a lot of alien spores. So my recommendation to you guys, if you see superior alien spores in the store or the war store, buy it, because you're going to need a lot of these to get through. Now, of course, for City, like I said, if you really want to take Punisher, you could, but I don't really recommend this, although he doesn't take very many mini uniques. So 2. So this circle in the bottom right of each of the characters is how many sets of mini uniques they require. 2 is actually pretty good. That means they're relatively cheap to bring up. But Punisher doesn't really contribute all that much, I think. So if you can avoid it, probably don't bother with him. There are probably other better skill options at this point if you just want to get into Dark Dimension 3. Like I said, Proxima Midnight is also a skill option. Sif is a skill option. If you just need to get into the first nodes, then definitely do one of them instead. Beyond that, for City, I think it's a bit more flexible. You can do Ghost Rider, I guess, but that's more doubling up on the Miasma, because Hela uses that, and otherwise we could wait until Squirrel Girl and see where she appears and how many more uniques you can do for her. So this is a really great tool. I just wanted to share with you guys if you haven't seen it already. MSF PAL DD3. This will be in the comments section, or sorry, the description below. There will be a link for it. Definitely use this if you haven't got into Dark Dimension 3, or even if you have and you didn't know about this tool, then I definitely recommend it. And I just wanted to jump over to MSF.gg as well, but the maps section. And I wanted to point out a few nodes that were a bit of a pain in the ass for me when I was doing it the first time. And that's going to be Mission 3, or Node 3. And this is the sort of the Brawler Miss Marvel boss node. And this has a lot of hero brawlers, of course, as you would imagine. And it's a super pain, especially with Black Panthers. There's like 4 Black Panthers, there's a lot of Miss Marvels, and they're all teaming up, and they're quite quick, because most hero brawlers tend to be on the higher speed stat, so they take a lot of turns. So this one is definitely one that took me a bit more time than usual, and this is what I wanted to point out as well. So a good way to counter this is by, if you have someone like Shuri, which can put defense up, you won't get killed as quickly. Although a lot of this, I think, especially in the first 4 nodes, is going to be a lot, maybe even the first 8 nodes really, is a lot about Phoenix dying, Dark Phoenix coming out and using her special on them, clearing about 20% of their max hit points is what I meant to say. Another pain in the ass node is, I think, this Phoenix node here, rank mission level 7. And so there's a couple of Phoenixes in here. Also, there's a lot of defenders as well, so there's a couple of Iron Fists. What can happen actually is both Iron Fists, if they're on the field, this can cause a lot of problems if there's other defenders, because there's Daredevils, Luke Cages, and Jessica Jones. And whenever you start the battle, Iron Fist will heal everyone that are defenders. So you definitely want to watch out for this, because it's a bit of a pain in the ass. And if you have a problem like this, using Shuri again, Shuri's basic will heal block. So this is the global node, mission 3 of the global node, and global lane. And that's something that you want to pay attention to. Now, beyond these two nodes that I pointed out, I don't think there's been anything that's really kind of punished me or really been that much harder than the other ones. Definitely the nodes in the first 8, which are basically the first 4 plus the 4 from global. Those are the most pain in the ass nodes. Once you reach cosmic, assuming you have at least 3 cosmic characters and at least one of either Minerva or Ebony Maw, it's significantly easier. I finished the cosmic lane in maybe half the time in which it took me to do the global lane. Sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied here. And so it wasn't really all that challenging once you got past the first 8 nodes. So Dark Dimension 3 is a bit of a slog. You know, you have to just, if you're not one of those perfectionists who repeat the node like 7 times to get the best run, I'm not one of these people, so you're probably not watching my videos if you're one of these people anyways. But, you know, these are just some of the tips that I wanted to share with you guys about Dark Dimension 3. So to summarize or provide a quick TLDR of today's video, get Phoenix to tier 14, get Minerva or Ebony Maw or both of them to tier 14, get Symbiote Spider-Man to tier 14, and these 4 characters really are going to be your backbone for those particular lanes, and then you can start adding on to those. Don't do Ultron or Punisher. These are some of the regrets that I've made. I also kind of regret Invisible Woman as well, because that's bio gear that I could have used elsewhere, either for my city characters or get Black Bolt up quicker. Also, I think you should prioritize people in the order of the lane that you're going to be in. So, for example, making sure that you have 4 characters for global lane before you start working on too many of your cosmic characters. And once you have 4 for cosmic, finish on working on city and things like that. This is outside, of course, the first 5 characters that you work on. And for that, I would recommend doing 1 of each origin. So 1 Mystic, 1 Bio, 1 Mutant, 1 Tech, and whichever I miss skill. So normally there's about a month or so at least between each of the major lanes for the first run. That's for most average players. I also think Squirrel Girl could also be a possible changer to the city lane, depending on the exact numbers in the kit, which hopefully we will see later on this week. I think that's all for my quick summed up advice on team building anyways. Likely there will be changes to this later down the line, and when I finish my first run, likely I'll post an update if I still feel the same way as I do in this video. And as always, there's new characters coming to the game that often make certain parts easier, like the release of Ebony Maw, which made Cosmic easier. And maybe Squirrel Girl will do this for City. But anyways, I hope that you guys enjoyed my video, and if you found this informative, please smash that like button, and consider subscribing to my channel for more Marvel Strike Force content. Also, I just wanted to remind people that I do have a Discord channel that I set up for people to reach me, or just chat with me about MSF, or maybe do some PvP if they want to. I also have a Twitter as well, which is budding if that is people's preferred social media, so that's in the description below. And that's all for just now, though, and I hope that everyone has a great rest of their week. And until next time, guys, stay safe. Boylon signing out.